Welcome back to the Hammer Time Rackets podcast. I'm your host, Peter Cipriano, and with me today, I have the current and not newly crowned world doubles champions, Richard Owen and Tom Billings. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good to see you, Peter. Thank you very much.
Thanks
Thank
for having
you
us
guys for coming on. Thank you guys for coming on. It's good to see Tom on again. I think he's the only double dip we've had other than previous hosts besides Ben Costin. So it's truly an honor to have you guys here. So as I was saying before we started recording, wanted to do a quick introduction. I think everyone who watches this podcast probably already knows, but just to level set what's going on here, we've got a pair of gentlemen here who have won the British Open 4 times, 16, 18, 19, 20, 22. They've won 3 US Opens in a row, 18, 19, and 20. And then they've won 5 British amateur doubles titles, 15, 16, 17, 20, and 22. So probably as far as success goes, the most formidable and successful pair of the 10s going into the 20s. And I think, pound for pound, the scariest doubles pair that I can think of on the planet right now. So
well, I think if you stick together, it does help. There's been a lot of partnerships in those 10s. So we've given ourselves the best opportunity to pick up some trophies.
And I think that's an interesting thing that you bring up, Rich, because I think, as a pair, you guys have played for such a long time together, maybe since 2014 that you started playing together?
Something like that. I think so. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Coming up to the decade, Tom. We need to do something to celebrate.
Maybe win a 2024 British Open. Does that sound like a good one?
There you go.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a good target. Yeah.
I guess I wanted to begin where it all started for you all. Were you guys in the same year in school?
Yeah. Same year.
Okay. And Rich, what I want to know from you is you started out at Cheltenham, right? Like as you were 13 years old.
Mm-hmm.
How did you wind up going on a rackets court and starting to play rackets? Because you were a tennis player, right?
Yeah, I was a tennis player. I'd always heard, so growing up, my tennis doubles partner was Dan Shiner, and he picked up rackets pretty quickly. So before coming to Cheltenham, he talked very fondly of rackets. And my sisters were at Cheltenham. Bryce was in their ear. He's got to come to Cheltenham, get him on court. So I always knew I was going to come in and play rackets. And had no idea about the game, where it was located, even in the school. But loved it from minute one. But I just knew I was sort of following Dan around a little bit. Yeah, I played a lot of tennis with him growing up, and certainly decided before coming to Cheltenham that it was a game I wanted to get involved in. Yeah.
Nice. And were there any other sort of top guys you overlap with? I assume Duncliffe would have been around there somewhere, maybe.
Yeah. Duncliffe also sort of followed our footsteps in the sort of Gloucestershire tennis scene a bit as well, and came in a couple of years after. He had a handful of other good players, but like a super active club. I think that's what Bryce always promoted in the school. The court was busy right from sort of 8 or 7 p.m. basically. Other good players. I think we had Barton in our year.
Sam
Batch, yeah, Mason. We had plenty of good players in our year, and I think a few years above there was some good players. Not a huge amount have kept going, I think, in the few years above us. But then the year group that just left when I joined was Nick James and James Rock, who'd I think won the public schools together. So full of silverware before I joined.
And who did you pair with throughout your years at school?
I had a bit of a mix. I had Alfie Gilbert quite a bit, and then I had Chris Stout in my last year. As I am today, heavily dominated on the right hand side. So I just had to find someone who'd stand on the left hand court. And
Chris has got a proper backhand. Whacked it.
Yeah, Chris could flipping hell. He could. It's lightning. But Chris was just incredibly talented, and it was about trying to sort of nurture that talent and keep him in the right headspace on court. So yeah, had a good time. Yeah, but Tom,
Well, always a challenge with the Stout brothers to keep them in the right headspace. A good partner can do that.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, no comments there, but Sip, I'm sure you've done a pretty good job doing that. Yeah, and Jesus Christ, you two were close to the challenge yourselves.
No comment there. We'll touch on that at a later date. I was tempted to bring up the fact that I'm pretty sure I'm 2-0 lifetime against you guys.
You are.
I was on court for 2 ends. I can't say that I contributed very much, but I was there, and it happened. So
yeah, that's true. You are 2-0. I think that's
pat
right.
myself on the back. So just
hang on. Yeah, one was the British Open.
British Open, the other one was and Manchester. I think Rich had run around. You would run him ragged, Tom, after maybe 2 love, and he had blisters on his feet, and his body was falling apart.
Yeah, and then you beat me again in April with Mark Farmelo. So
yeah, that was a tough one. I gotta say, like not being able to see, and then also having cramps, dealing with your serve. You know, it's been like a while since I felt like a total fish out of water and an idiot on court. Like you're hitting the body serve, the heavy angle, the down the middle, and I'm just like, I literally can't. I can see like 2 balls because the depth perception eye issue, and then I can't move. It was a very humbling experience. So I'll say that. You're probably as far as like favorite players to watch, I'd say you're probably number 1, especially in doubles court, and my least favorite to play against. So I'll say that. So did you guys ever wind up playing against each other in school? I imagine you must have.
We did. We played three times. We played 3 times at singles. We played a few times once at doubles. I don't know.
Yeah, Tom and I were pretty clear 2 and 3 in our year group. You know, we had some good battles, but yeah, Nick Cockcroft, all due respect, was a pretty clear number 1 growing up. I think he came from a squash and tennis background, and I think where Tom and I had one of the others, he had both, and he was a cracking athlete. Yep. Big server, which you often don't get from the squash guys, and an amazing volleyer as well. But he had all the angles around the back of the court, which I certainly was totally lost by.
He just picked it up so quickly, didn't he? Like playing points was, I know, it was very impressive.
Yeah. So we had our battles. Well, Tom started Rackets like quite early.
Here we go.
So this is I always give him stick. And so our first meeting, I got absolutely butchered by Tom, and then I think from there I just scraped bragging rights basically.
Nice. So you had the bragging rights like coming out of school. What you guys must have graduated in 2012 or 13?
11.
11. Okay.
11.
11.
Did you do, Rich? Did you do a fellowship? I forget.
Not a standard one. All I did a month out in Philadelphia, I think in spring holidays, basically in my first year of university. And I think Philly wants to kickstart that program again. They hadn't had it for 4 or 5 years. I don't think something had sat right. It was whoever was last there. And I just popped Gary Swanner an email, and he was, he moved everything around to welcome me. So I sort of had a mini fellow experience, let's say.
Yes. And Tom had a very famous one out in Chicago with some silverware to boot, I think.
You had about 3 or 4 fellowships out in Chicago.
I think two at the last count. I think two at the last count.
That's right. So I think fast forwarding a little bit, you guys, you guys must have started partnering up, as I said, maybe in 2014 or so. How did that come to pass? What were you guys just playing a lot of singles together and you didn't dislike each other, or what was the sort of genesis
of the
partnership?
I can't actually remember how it happened. Do you remember? I think we were keen to play together. Like, we thought it would work well.
I definitely remember as well. So both of our school coaches, Bryce and Mike Cauldron, were quite good friends. Mike had gone to Cheltenham, was an old Cheltonian, and both really into their cricket. And I think they secretly wanted us to perform. And I remember, I specifically remember Mike Aldrin saying, like, you two together, like there'll be no one who can take you guys on. I think we got thumped for the next 3 years, but it was
so good from Mike.
You know, he definitely put the seed in our minds, and I think we talked about it, and you know, I remember I had that quick result before we started with Duncliffe in the amateur doubles.
Yeah.
But we'd already sort of committed, and obviously felt a little bit guilty. You know,
he nearly dropped me before we begun. Sit.
I know, would have been crazy. But no, I think we'd always just suited Tom's so strong on the backhand side, you know, two-hander, and that's, you know, fits well. So that was crikey, a long time ago. I can't remember our first tournament. We must have been US Open, I think. And did we lose to Larkin and Stout quarters?
Yeah, in Chicago. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember what year that would have been. Jesus.
15.
So yeah, I'm looking at the tally here. You won an amateur doubles in 15, 16, 17, which I presume must have come after the US Open or just after. Does that sound right?
Maybe we played together 2014 US Open, and that was when we lost to.
Yeah, I could think. Yeah.
It could have been. Interestingly enough, I was just looking at where things have happened for you guys. And aside from Queens, where you've had a tremendous amount of success, Boston has been where you won in 2019. Tom, where you won the US Open singles, and then where you obviously just won the World Championship as a pair. So I guess I was going to do this at the end, but what's your, as a pair, would you say Boston is your favorite court to play on, given the success, or what's the thought on the US courts?
You take that one,
Tom. What's our thought? I think if we had to pick a place to play a game for our lives, we'd probably pick Queens. I would guess. But in terms of what we think of the Boston court, it's a good court. It's I mean, obviously for the match itself, it behaved a little differently. I mean, we'll probably get to that, but it was sweating pretty dramatically. It's quick. I think it suits us because it's quick at the front wall, but it's slow around the back. So I think it suited us. I think it suits us quite nicely. You know, when Rich is on and creaming it, it gives him that kind of suits his game. It's pretty tough when he's hitting it that cleanly to deal with, and then it suits me. It gives me a chance to kind of mop up at the back a little bit.
Yeah, it stays up.
Maybe that's why we've had a bit of success at Boston. But don't know. What do you think, Richard?
That was a random.
I think it's probably more circumstance. Probably. If we talk about the game at some point, we'll come on to how, you know, we're really close to losing. I don't think it was one of our stronger performances, and I think with you know, when we won the US Open there, we're in the final against a very new pair in John Kroll and Will Hopton, and you didn't have a lot of the entrants from the, you know, didn't have many travelling UK players. So I think it might just be circumstance, to be fair, that we've had some results in Boston. I still like the Philadelphia court a lot. You know, I think that's probably the truest court. I think New York's probably pretty close after that as well. It just takes a while to adjust to that pace. You can't play at Queens and get really accustomed to the court and think it's going to help you when you travel over.
I know, Tom, you're not crazy about New York, or haven't loved it.
Me? No, I like New York, but I agree with Richard. It does take some time to get used to. I don't mind New York. I've played there enough now.
You've taken some batterings out there, though, haven't you?
I've taken some batterings.
To be fair, he's playing with a pretty good.
I've famously not served in a game. I think that's true.
Impressive feat.
I think that's true. In like the US Invitation in, like, I don't know, 2013 or something, I lost the game 15-love to Stout, and I think I may have not served.
Was that the one where Gourlay was betting on how many, but like he was doing like an over/under on how many points Stout would drop per game?
That was against ATB, which was pretty impressive.
God, that's brutal. Jesus.
Yeah. It may have happened to me as well. I don't know. It may have happened.
I don't think you can feel too bad about that, because I can tell
I
you
do,
with
I don't
confidence,
mind.
I probably
I've got
had
no
that.
issue.
I've had that happen to me about 100 times before playing James,
But you
random.
still, you pay him for that session as well, which is
That's right. It's a double whammy. Yeah, I'm famously, I've said it, I think I must be the all-time losingest Rackets player if you're including practice sessions by a very wide margin. I can't think of anyone else that's even coming close, probably.
It's the wrong practice partner, perhaps.
Very good. So yeah, we're going back to some of the historic results and the partnership. Obviously the amateur doubles you did really well at early, and then started winning the British Open, and then getting a challenge against James and Jonathan. I'm forgetting, was there an eliminator to get into that world championship, or did you just
Not the first one. Yeah,
okay.
we played, no eliminator for that first one.
And then the
We did the
second
second
one, you
one.
played Ben and Mike, right? And you chopped them up.
No, the second one we played Mole and Bales.
Okay, got it. I was okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking Ben and Mike was the British Open, that was like a 4-love one.
Yeah.
Where Rich went off in one of those games and served like 14 aces or something like that.
Yeah.
Impressively with the new foosballs, which is a hard thing to do. So you get that challenge. I think the first leg was in New York, correct?
Yeah.
It's tough.
Take me back to that time. Where were your heads at? I think going into the match, what had you done to prepare? And then after the match was over, going back to England, what was it like? So I guess in the lead up, what were the thoughts? First world championship for you, Rich? And
yeah, it was, I remember the first, it was, the first point happens in a total blur, and you always want that first point to go well. You just fall into the game, and once you fall and everything flows, you're not thinking about anything else. Rackets, can be quite simple in that regard, but when the game's taken away from you, like it did that day, it felt horrible at times. I think we both had a really good training week. Like, you sort of convince yourself when you knock side to side and you're seeing it well, you convince yourself you're playing really well. And then as soon as there's 4 people on the court and it's really busy, and you've got Stout, just tubing winners, and Jonathan just an absolute rock serving aces as well.
Yeah.
And you're a bit nervous, you're trying to communicate, but there's a huge noise. It was horrible for a couple of games, and then there was just that moment, I think in the third game where we should have won it and actually brought something back to the UK, where we lost a key
we just
moment,
didn't settle.
We never settled, did we? There was a lot of people who travelled. I felt very guilty for, but anyway,
I think we learned a lot from that. Like, as you say, the kind of hitting from side to side. Because I remember vividly, I think the morning of the game, we kind of playing side to side, we're just whacking at each other, kind of felt great, and I think we learned a lot from that, kind of about how to practice, kind of what to do leading up, not to kind of overthink it. And I think we learned a lot from the build up to that match. We definitely have organized more matches since.
Yep. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because I like hearing the commentary before this match. You definitely played a few practice matches, but obviously playing against like me and Mike Bailey at the time, going into that match, or Coyne and Hopton, something like that, is different gravy than the style compare at that time. But before this match, it sounded like you guys were very organized in your approach, really spent a lot of good time on court. Like what was different about the preparation for maybe the next world championship and this one than the first one? If anything?
I think the next one, we were quite lucky to have a eliminator, 2 best of 7s against Mole and Mike, who had kind of got obviously prepared just as much and just as well, and kind of that process to play a best of 7 match, and 2 of them, whatever it was, a month out, we're fortunate to get through it. But like, that was such good preparation for us. I think.
I think we're delighted that match happened, weren't we? Because well, you just want to be straight into a challenge and not have to deal with anything. We sort of thought, actually, if we can't beat them, we're probably not going to lay too much of a glove as well on Jamie and Jonathan. No, just you've got to then beat the best after. So if they beat us, fair play. You weren't going to beat probably Stout and Larkin. And then 2 months before, you've got some proper match practice, which you're not really going to get otherwise, because it's sort of right at the beginning of the season. So super fortunate to have that. And I was thinking ahead of this as well, doing my prep sit for you, just doing a bit of homework. That having that first leg at Queen's does make a huge difference, because every time you jump on the court and practice, it's for the match and you're learning something about it, or you've got you're whacking 2 serves around. You're not trying to change anything before you go. Everything this time just felt like, or save for the first leg, you're like, playing really well, but I don't know if that's going to work when I arrive there. And so second time round, having that there, and I think was was a big advantage for us.
Yeah, I think it was definitely a surprise to see the outcome. Like, no question. I'm sure that you guys were surprised to win the first match 4-love, I think it was, right? But I can say confidently, like, whatever you guys did to prepare James and Jonathan, just like, I don't think we're all there, and we're a bit complacent. I'm not sure if the interest or the same amount of hunger was there for them as it was for you guys, having won some stuff but not gotten over the hump yet. So it was a fantastic performance. And then in New York, you went down 1 game and then closed it out in the second, which was an impressive fashion. So you go back to England from there, and then the world comes to an end, right?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Well, to an extent.
Did you guys do, like, I know, Tom, you're like a training psycho, and you did, I'm sure, a tremendous amount of training.
I actually had a shoulder operation, so that's
right.
I had 8 months off, so I actually used it quite wisely to.
As did I. Yes.
You did too. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I played a lot of golf as well. Yeah.
And Rich, were you like totally off court, like, eating Cheetos and hitting golf balls, or what?
Yeah, I got heavily into my beers. I remember we both came back actually with, I'm sure we came back with COVID right at the beginning from the US Open in Chicago. And we got all these emails coming around from Nara going, there was probably someone, we've had someone at the Stag say they had it. I remember coming back the next day and just like having an awful night, sweating in bed.
Yep.
And getting no sympathy, I think, from my parents at the time, just saying, I actually went and I had to go to the hospital to get my knee checked out, and ended up as well having a second surgery. So I think, we all use that time clearly the same, but it was great. It was great. I loved, very fortunate COVID, and how, it was a super quiet time. We, George and I stuck around in London and got lots of work done and things, and fortunate enough to carried on in that sense. But played a lot of tennis as well. Queen's stayed open partially. But yeah, what a strange year and a half. Bloody hell.
It certainly was. That you brought up the knee surgeries, and one thing I wanted to ask you about, I think, and both of you actually, given sort of the injury histories recently for Tom with the hamstring and you, Rich, with the knee. Is it your meniscus or like some other issue that you've had like repetitively with the knee that's sort of stopped you from being able to play as much singles and have to manage your time on court?
It's I don't know, I thought at the start it was patella tendonitis. Every symptom said it was, and I got recommended a specific doctor over in Bristol who said, actually, this is a criminally underspotted problem you've got, which is you've got a high kneecap. Basically, it's sat 11 millimeters above where it should and requires surgery. And the second surgery wasn't too invasive. It was just basically removing all the metal work, which was causing a lot of irritation. But horrible for a few years. But would I've ever just find it so difficult to get fit to keep up with the likes of Billings and stuff like that. Maybe it's been a blessing in disguise just to focus on the doubles.
Double specialist. And Tom, we were talking a little bit about this before we started. Obviously, you had the hamstring issue that started in Chicago, right?
It started in Chicago, yeah. Chicago Invitational.
And then
Camden was running me around a rackets court. And it went.
And you're feeling just now like it's sort of gotten back to where it needs to be, and you're confident in it.
Yeah, definitely. The matches in Boston were a big kind of hurdle for me in that kind of wasn't overly sure. Matches are very different to training. It's hard to replicate. I was a bit concerned about my recovery with only a couple of days between, but actually felt great, and kind of that was a big kind of hurdle to get over for me. So I've hoped, touch wood, I'm fully past that and felt good and recovered well, and yeah.
It's as if about 4 hours of exercise a day, Tom,
has caught up with me.
Not good for you. Yeah.
I was going to say.
So brings me to a next question. Forgetting doubles for a second, we've got Ben Costin as the current singles world champion. Are we going to see a Tom Billings and Richard Owen chase of Ben Costin to try to get in with the singles in the next round of opens? What are we thinking for each of you singles wise?
Go, Richard.
Yours is probably a bit more straightforward, Tom. Probably, yeah. I won't be playing the British Open. I will do I think we're going to go over to the US and I'll play the singles out there, and a lot fitter than I ever have been, which is great. So can compete to a certain level, but I haven't played a singles match since COVID. What was that? Yeah, when I lost to Ben in the US. Yeah, I think it was the US final, and one match every 3 or 4 years for me, I think, in singles.
And you, Tom?
I'm going to play the British Open, but I haven't, to be honest, I'm going to see how it goes. I'd like to is the answer, but this World Championship, I think if you include the eliminator, I've done 7 in 6 years.
Yep.
World Championship challenge matches, and obviously I've had a pretty tough, as we say with the hamstring, kind of 18 months. And so as Richard knows and as others know, playing in a World Championship, they do take a bit out of you. Do I want to do an 8th? I don't know. So gonna play the British Open, as I say, gonna go to the US Open with Richard. But kind of haven't made obviously I'd need to qualify and all that anyway. But haven't made my mind up yet.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think for singles, at least we're in the second round of the second round of the qualifying period, with Will Hopton, I think at the top spot right now as for the challenge, right?
I haven't even checked, so that probably says it all.
Yeah. Wow. I think it'll also be interesting to see if they just arbitrarily decide to change the rules again, which we can get into maybe in a little while. But
I don't know. I don't know why they do that. I just thought it works quite well every 2 years.
I think that the every 2-year thing is a good one. I think the elite world rankings and like some version of the elite world rankings and or the Neptune maybe being combined, and then just having like the challenge race is maybe the best way of doing it. So if you win an open, it just seems like maybe it's a little bit different, or less. There's like less strenuous requirements to get in to an eliminator maybe with singles, because I don't think you necessarily have to win a US or a British Open. You might be able to win like a Western or a Manchester or something like that.
Yeah.
You can get in. Whereas with the Rackets doubles, I think you got to have a certain amount of points and then have done it recently too. But it'll definitely be interesting with you in the mix, Tom. And I'm sure, I think Ben's been a little bit focused on pickleball lately, so you never know what kind of form he'll be in at that time. So good luck.
I'm sure he'll be all right.
So I think going forward towards this most recent match for the World Championship, you're coming over to Boston and doing a new version of the match where there's 2 legs in Boston. A lot of people were saying, like, I think talking, apart from you guys and saying, what's this going to look like? What do you think the result's going to be? Who do you think that being in the U.S. favors? I think somebody alluded to it when they were commentating, is like one of the biggest weapons you guys have is Rich, your forehand serve from the left box, being able to mix it up when you have 2 serves. And do you have to tone it down in the U.S. A little bit, and how does that affect the game? Where were your guys like kind of heads at playing in the U.S. with 1 serve? And how do you feel about that?
I'll talk about Richard's serve. I mean, obviously with 2 serves, you have the insurance, you can mix it up a bit more, but Richard's with 1 serve is still,
yep,
in my opinion, the best server. So 1 serve probably does take away a little bit of the kind of mix-ups that you can do, but it doesn't change the fact that it's still a great server. I don't know, we're so used to going over and playing with 1 serve. I think that I don't think that's too much of a difference. I think the different balls are probably more of a difference for us going over. And I think, as Richard kind of said earlier, we're playing at Queens with a different set of balls. So that makes our practice obviously useful, but you're always got in the back of your mind. And we did go to Tunbridge and play once or twice, I think, once over a weekend, just to try a different court, one that's slightly quicker.
Is that the quickest court that you can find in like the nearest area?
I think so. I would guess so. Yeah.
And did you guys have a set of World Championship or Chicago balls to practice with, or you were playing with the foosballs to begin?
No, we have a select few Chicago balls, which was usful.
And what are the what are the opinions on the Chicago balls versus the foosballs?
Did you bring some to the court? I didn't realize.
We played with Chicago balls at Tunbridge. We haven't at Queens.
Oh, nice. Brilliant.
Yeah, that was why I couldn't see the serve when you're hitting it.
Too hard.
Sorry, Sip, I missed. Sorry, what is
each of your opinions on the Chicago versus the foosballs? Which do you prefer, and why?
Flipping heck, I'll sign off for this bit. We're losing viewers, Sip. Apart from Walter Thorpe, probably he's logged on. He's logged on to listen to this bit.
This is key, man. This is what everyone wants to hear.
We can't talk about the. I don't know. Who made? Is it Elmer who was doing it before? Yeah, what a legend. Yeah, we talk about him.
He is a legend, and he's getting good. There were very few that broke actually at the World Championship. I think we had 1 or 2 that we threw out, but I don't know how many they had, but they were all good.
Yeah.
It definitely changes the game a little bit. It's less bouncy and less like, it's more severe.
Yeah, that's true.
So now we're talking about the match. You go in, everyone was saying you've prepared like as well as you possibly can. You've played matches, you've shown up early. Going into the match, confidence levels high?
Yeah, I think they were. I think they were quite high. I don't think, I don't think we'd had like a great set of practice matches. I think we'd hit well, and then I don't know. You find sometimes you just like lose a bit of trying to build the momentum into the game a little bit. It's a bit of a challenge. It's like, obviously peaking at the right time, but you don't want to just start turning up. We did a lot of like 7 a.m. training sessions and stuff just to fit around work, and you sometimes can lose a little bit of the intensity, which is dangerous. So there was times where I felt like we just had an average session, but I think we got out to Boston and Yeah, we're enjoying it, and we were, I think surprised probably to have such a slow start. Would that be fair, Tom?
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
Certainly,
Ben was Ben came out, he came out blistering. I mean, it was a bit of both. I think we literally fed him backwall kills, which is the worst thing you can possibly do to anyone. But he was seriously impressive, and I don't you can sort of count on one hand how many shots Mike's have missed. I'm sure in those first 3 or 4 games, and
he was brilliant.
It's an unbelievable combination.
And actually, Mike served really well in those first couple of games as well.
Didn't he? Yeah, Ben did.
Both of them.
It was a surprise. I think he probably hit more aces in game 1 than the rest of the entire match. He sort of found something quite good there, didn't he? And then, what a combination when it's just that level of pace from Ben, and then Mike Mike is a super smart player. What I find really hard about playing Mike as well is he just changes his movement up massively. His starting position will be really high up court at one stage, and so you're going, Tom, whack it into the sidewalls early.
Yeah.
And then he misses it, and Ben stood there just getting a layup. And then the next time you're killing it, and he's just stood really deep in the court, and so it's really hard to actually. It's super smart. Very bright, very intelligent man. And makes it really hard to play against. Whereas there's a few guys you play against, you know exactly where they're going to be stood every time. You know their movement patterns, and these two varied it up pretty well, I thought.
So you guys went down the first 2 games, right? And then started to pick it back up. And Ben, I think, started to feel it physically a bit, right? Is that the first?
I think he started feeling it at 2.
Yeah. Okay.
That was when he started.
I think he might have had it at 2-1.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing, because you guys have, I don't recall ever seeing either of you guys start cramping in a best-of-7 match.
No, I did. I know when it was. I lost the match for Richard when I cramped. I don't know whether he remembers this, but we lost to We not saying the result would have been different, but we lost to Stout and Larkin early on 4-3 at Queens, and I cramped.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like,
this is like a confession.
Yeah. I cramped. I was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that again. And we've been quite lucky since. But actually, Richard was probably as fit as anyone on the court, which gave us, like, we were both feeling pretty confident physically. Which, even going 2-love down, we hadn't planned for that, of course, and we were pretty unsettled.
I did say to you after, didn't I? Like, I've never been part of a winning team because of fitness.
Loved it, didn't you?
What were the conversations in between games with you guys after going 2-love down? Were they still like, this is a long match, stay positive, or are you like at each other's throats? Or somewhere in between?
Never at each other's throats.
Never.
I can't remember 2-love. I think 1-love, it was a bit like, let's settle in there.
Yeah.
I think 2-love was like, that was better. I think we got a lead at some. Did we go 11-8 up? Or something where we got right back into the game anyway, and then you're like, hang on, this is just so winnable.
I remember being pretty nervous in the 3rd game. We were down 8-6 or something like that, kind of like maybe 9-5 or 9-6, and thinking, core, like we need this game. Like, it's a huge swing. Game 3-love down or 2-1. And I think
it goes back. It just goes so quickly, doesn't it? It's just
But I remember when we got that 3rd game, I remember a lot more of it. We were very calm, and felt probably at that stage, even being 2-1 down, probably quite confident. And
having watched it on the YouTube or whatever, I remember I said to somebody, like, that match is over. Because it looked, you could just tell the energy was different. Like, when you guys stepped back on court, the beginning of the next game, things had shifted a little bit. And after 2-2, obviously you saw it right through. So you go into the next.
Well, not so much actually. In that 6th, we
It was close, right?
because
It was 15,
it was
13.
pretty. We could easily have lost that. I think we went to a set, right? It was 13-all, no set.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we were up quite a bit. It was.
We were 10-5 up or something.
Yeah, I know.
But it's always tough when someone's, like, we can feel the finish line, or to an extent, they're struggling physically and mixing it up, and obviously both great ball strikers, so able to still make it pretty challenging even then. We get a bit tight, maybe, it kind of, that felt hard to get over the line there. It could easily have gone to a 7th.
Yeah, and good for you guys. It didn't. So you close it out on day 1, and then you move towards Saturday. Thinking the same thing, like let's get a good start and see how it goes, and like whatever. Or are we thinking change up the strategy a little bit, try to be more aggressive? What was the strategic plan there for Saturday?
Yeah, I think it was sort of felt like Christ will pick right back up from where we left it, and we're gonna serve a lot better as well this time. We
won't do what we did the first 2 games. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wasn't what's happened.
I know. We felt confident going into that one, and again, just point after point, we're sort of on the back foot a bit, and hustled our way back to 1-1. And I think from there we were super confident.
Yeah,
and we got some great momentum in the third. And then these matches can just shift when you least expect them to. People go on runs. I think we had a few good points. Then there was some amazing picks from Bales and some calls we didn't like. And then you're suddenly facing 2-1 down. And like, Jesus, this, did not expect this to be happening. But yeah, we were confident going into that second, I think. A lot more than the first anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, looked at the dynamic change a little bit. I think Mike pushed up the court a bit more and started to take the ball early. It's an interesting dynamic, and that was an incredibly high level doubles match. I think one of the best, most competitive doubles matches I've ever seen. And it was cool to watch, and the different inflection points and whatnot. So the time goes on. I think Ben felt it a little bit, and you guys close it out. Excited, happy. What happens at the what was the after party? You go out and do it big in Boston?
Not I mean, it was Lucas and his team had put on a great drinks at the club. I converted the entire real tennis court, proper bar in the dead end, and band or DJ and food and everything around. And so yeah, had fun and then I think head back to the basement bar and kept going. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was just it was a super weird way to end the match. We were wondering what Ben was sort of asking up there and going,
I think he figured out that they couldn't catch you no matter what. And if you're level points, you guys
get on him. I mean, to be fair, you look at it and you go, actually, maybe his focus should have been elsewhere, but he was the only one in the building keeping an eye on it, and it was really important. Probably something that should have been someone else should have been having a look at a bit closer.
I think the thing is that it only goes to points when the matches, when someone's like, that's the secondary games come first. So like, I think technically we should have finished the match first. But anyway, I remember we were trying to work it out, and my biggest fear was that we needed 6 or 7 points.
Yeah,
and which could easily have worked out like that. And so I was trying to drag Richard off the court, like let's prepare. Anyway, it was a strange.
There wasn't like a major celebration or anything that you could, because it was basically just like Ben conceding the match and that was it. But like, did you guys actually have like a moment of like, holy shit, we just won, this is awesome? Or was it just kind of like, like shake your hand and you're done?
We didn't really, did we? That was the biggest shame of it all, I think. It
was a strange ending. We had a nice hug, a couple of those.
Yeah,
you got a couple of good hugs, and you got to get some man love.
I know. Don't think. I mean, it's one of those. Probably it's what people look for in those sort of two-legged ties is someone to win on points. Probably not ending like that, because it did feel like a slight anti-climax.
That match was good enough that it deserved like a major celebration going on. I felt like,
it'd been fun to come on the next game and everyone knew we needed 2 points, so even if everyone knew we needed to win 15-3 or whatever the last game was, people knew that, and we all ended like that. It would have been cool. I doubt it. I can't see that happening again anytime soon.
But I think what I was most kind of proud of or happy with was that going on for that game, we knew that whoever won it basically was going to, obviously if they'd won it, they'd have won 4-1, which would have meant they won. And if we'd won it, well, we knew we were probably up by points. And that was probably the best game we played in terms of kind of how tight we played, which was under those circumstances was pretty good. I mean,
Ben has that big celebration at like 3-1, like he's won the match, and then you guys go on and basically was it 3-1?
I think they missed. I think didn't they miss a few? Yeah, they missed a few early on.
Yep,
and then we had a few cheap hands. Like I think they sort of did they go for fault initially, and then the few cheap hands, and and then we had all these foul cutty ones that sort of came off for us. Yeah, it was pretty lucky, to be fair. I mean, you just could not control that ball at all in that last game.
It was just the court was sweating, or was it what was the deal?
Yeah, sorry, can you hear me? The front wall was soaking wet. The walls were wet. The floor was okay, but the front wall was, it was very wet even to touch.
Yeah, you wipe your hand on the wall, it'd actually be worse. You'd be worse off for it. Neil coming down and inspecting the court and things, and it's quite hard to sort of say, well, actually, let's postpone this till tomorrow.
Well, before we end, I wanted to spend like 5 or 10 quick minutes on a couple of I would say more controversial topics. So obviously you guys and Mike, out of the 4 people playing in the World Championship, are amateurs, and you get no money from the TNRA or NARA. You get nothing comped. I know Tom in the past has tried, but unfortunately failed to get some sort of job or funding from the TNRA. In a perfect world, what would you guys see as the outcome for the compensation or coverage of costs for matches and tournaments like these?
Pass the baton.
Go on,
this is like a race to who cannot answer this question first.
Well, perfect world's an easy one, isn't it? It's like, there's a bottomless pit of money, and you, as an amateur, you can.
That's why I'm phrasing the question that way, so you can be diplomatic.
Yeah, cost coverage would be nice, but probably the reality is there's not enough money really to help out. So we are where we are.
I think it is a barrier. Like the cost is prohibitive. So I think Richard's completely right, but the more that can be done, hopefully the more players that are going to take the game seriously, the higher standards, the better matches, I think cost is probably the main factor as to why we lose so many people. I think if who knows what could be done or what should be done, but that's
I think if there's if there are clubs going through serious fundraising efforts for it, it'd probably be nice for the amateurs cost to be baked into that in one way or another. If you can't do the whole, you're not expecting the whole thing, because it is a lot, but some sort of cost covering would be really helpful. But you've got to get the sponsors in, and it was difficult enough to get sponsors in, and people did a fantastic job doing that. Anytime we can get more assistance, I think Tom, myself, and Mike are in lucky positions where we can go and do it. But the cost of these challenges are thousands and thousands in prep and travel, and if you add time into it and, leaving work and things, then it's more, it's significantly more. But, Boston did an amazing job of putting us up, and, TNRA covered half the flight. So there is help there. I mean, it should be amazing to have more.
I mean, perhaps, I think actually it kind of links with the format change in Boston, which I thought was really good, but it kind of felt like they were able to put a lot behind it. Rich just touched on it, but Lucas did a brilliant job. Like, the events were good. A lot of the membership got really stuck in. And I feel like it worked, not having one leg and the uncertainty that comes with having potentially one match and who knows how many games in a world championship. Kind of felt like the club got behind it really well. So maybe there's something in that. I don't know.
Do you think that format of having both legs at one place is the right way to go going forward?
I liked it.
I liked it as well. I wonder with the UK whether it's sort of like a Queens and a school, if that works, or whatever. I don't know about that. Or even if you did US, you went from Philadelphia to New York. But Tom's right. There was something really cool about Boston and the membership being really behind it for a full week. Good build up. There's different people there for first leg and second leg. And it was really, they hadn't hosted something like that for a long time, so it was special to be a part of. But the Wednesday, Saturday format's good. I think, that week in between a first and a second leg is painful. And that's on both sides of it. When you've had a good win and a bad win, you either, you want to right the wrongs quickly and then you're having to wait, or you're like petrified and you're up and you're like, oh, how am I going to close this out?
Yep.
Whereas 2 days rest is plenty. It's enough to give you a ton of anxiety anyway.
Definitely. But 2 days rest and it not having the transatlantic flight and the jet lag to get over meant that 2 days was fine. So yeah, maybe as you say, you could do nearby courts. I don't know. But it was good. Yeah. It was good.
Yeah. Sid, what do you reckon? Come on, what's your 50 pence?
On the legs thing, I think keeping it in
No, we don't care about the legs.
On the fundraising. Okay, here's my thought. If I'm Tom Billings and I'm number 1 or 2 in the world and I'm supposedly an amateur, which is total bullshit because everyone in the whole world knows that Tom Billings is a professional rackets player. You say, forget whatever the RPA is saying, and God bless the RPA. I like a lot of you guys. You may hate me for saying this. Tom Billings is a professional athlete, and he shouldn't have to be connected to any club, and he should be able to be compensated for what he's doing. He should be able to take money, just like Ben Costin should be able to take money, in my opinion, and they should be able to be touring professionals. And ideally, in the future, there's enough money in the game, whether it's in America, England, or both, to allow for like a proper rackets tour and for professional players to be both affiliated with clubs and play professional tournaments and to be unattached. And whether you're, there's a limit, like you have to be in the top 15 to accept money, or a certain amount of money. There's all sorts of different permutations of how that could go. But in its simplest form, I would say if you're a top 15 or 20 player, you should have the option of saying, I'm giving up my amateur status, I'm a professional, and I'm taking prize money. And if there's a way in between that where you're saying, I'm just going to cover my costs, and you're like a semi-pro, but you can still play amateur tournaments, maybe there's a half-baked way of doing it. But at the very simplest level, in my opinion, Tom Billings is a professional player. Ben Costin is a professional player. Just like in real tennis, you got Camden, who isn't necessarily like attached to a club, but he's the world champion. All he does is train, and he's playing all these tournaments and making money. Why is it that can't happen?
I mean, devil's advocates, do they not have more funds to do that and play with?
They do. They absolutely do. But then that goes to the question of who's raising the money and where's the money coming from. And I think maybe there should be some thought given to changing the way that maybe you're funding not only the World Championship, but the sponsorship deals with the US Open, the British Open, and how much money you're raising and how you're distributing it.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be great for some like-minded people to think of a few good ideas there. The only bit that for sure, I think everyone's got the best intentions, and
Absolutely.
Rory Sutton's come in, and I think he's trying to usher in a new era, which is fantastic. There's definitely a few old school minds which can hold it back. They love the divide, and they don't want to see it grow. And you're just going, why? Like, yeah, it might have worked for you, but you know, you've got people coming out of university who don't want to go and spend 500 quid in Manchester. That's their month's budget. You know, while they're a student, to buy a couple of rackets and attend a black tie. Like, and they're the next generation of good players. The cost of playing rackets is just so prohibitive.
It is.
It's always need a new racket. It's crazy.
Especially if you're Rich Owen and you're smashing the ball 250 miles an hour, and the racket's just going to explode on you every fourth shot. And the rackets like it's your job. But yeah, if I'm having the last word on that one, I'll say ideal world, we raise more money on both sides of the pond, but it's a single pot of money for the combined NARA and TNRA fund or whatever. And it's specifically meant to be going towards prize money, funding of top players, and development of future top players. You know, there's any number of ways you can do it, but I think to your point,
can we get you heading this up? Can you?
Yeah,
do you want to put your head in?
If someone said, Peter Cipriano, go raise $100,000 and make sure that it gets distributed over a certain amount of time to a number of people, I'd be all over it in 2 seconds. But it wouldn't just be, oh, we're going to pocket the money, or, oh, we're only going to give a little bit of it out, and we're going to give it in dribs and drabs. And, you know, you want to encourage the highest level play. You don't want the third or fourth best guy in the world not coming over to the US Open because it's too expensive, or you don't want the 10th best guy not coming over. I think you want to get the highest level of play possible. And the way to do that is to raise some money and give it out and encourage play, and having unattached professionals or semi-professionals or whatever.
It shouldn't be that. I mean, you just wish it shouldn't be that hard, but there's always barriers in the way. But if you raised some discretionary money, I'm sure we'd see Christian Bortz back at the helm.
That may be tougher than just raising a couple $100,000. I think we've got to give the old boy a kick in the butt to start working hard on the court again.
Is your streak still going in the USM? I don't know.
So he got COVID, and I basically broke my ankle in Boston. So he didn't play, and then I didn't lose, but lost the USM. We then won another one, and then this year my knee is shot. I just started yesterday, so it's over. So we got 6 out of the last 7 or something like that. And hopefully at some point we'll both be healthy mentally and physically enough to get the streak going again. I'm not going to hold my breath though with 4 children and a body that's breaking down.
Is that you or thoughts?
No comment, but I love you, Christian, if you're watching. Love you. All right, I think that's been almost exactly an hour. I really appreciate you guys coming out. It's been really interesting for me. For all the people who disagree with my opinions on the money in the game and what to do about it, I don't really care. It's my opinion.
And it's your podcast. And it's your podcast.
I'm the only person who has this podcast. I love the game, and I want to see the best possible things happen, and the best players like Tom Billings and Richard Owen playing the game on both sides of the pond. And I think that's how we do it. Guys, congratulations on the World Championship. Look forward to hopefully seeing you over in a few months. And thanks very much for coming on.
Thanks, Sip.
Take care, guys.
Thanks so much.
Cheers.
All the best.
Bye.